Matthew chapter 2 and verse 16. Then Herod, when he saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, became furious, and he sent and killed all the male children in Bethlehem and in all that region who were 2 years old or under, according to the time that he had ascertained from the wise men. Matthew 2, verses 16 to 18, cites the prophecy of Jeremiah 31 and verse 15. In its original context, Jeremiah's prophecy relates to Israel's period of captivity in Babylon and the murder of children during the invasion of Judea. The mothers of Israel, portrayed as Rachel, are weeping for their sons who were led into exile. Rachel was considered a matriarchal figure to the nation of Israel, and her tomb is near Bethlehem. We read about it in Genesis 35 and verse 19. Matthew links the prophecy by Jeremiah to the massacre of the innocents, and the parallel is striking. Eerie similarities also exist between the massacre of the innocents and Pharaoh's order to kill all Hebrew male infants at the time of Moses' birth, which you can read about in Exodus chapter 1, verses 15 to 16. Herod's massacre was carried out, but his plan to rid the world of the Messiah was ruined when God intervened to protect Jesus in yet another fulfillment of prophecy. When the Magi left Bethlehem to return to their homeland, Joseph had a dream. An angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. Get up, flee to Egypt with the child and his mother, the angel said. Stay there until I tell you to return, because Herod is going to search for the child to kill him. That night Joseph left for Egypt with the child and Mary, his mother, and they stayed there until Herod's death. This fulfilled what the Lord had spoken through the prophet. I called my son out of Egypt, as written in Matthew 2, 13 to 15, citing Hosea chapter 11 and verse 1. God the Father saved his Son to fulfill his purpose of securing our salvation. Some traditions claim that the massacre involved tens to hundreds of thousands of children. However, based on the population of the small village of Bethlehem, the annual birth rate and the high infant death rate at that particular time, most biblical historians and demographers estimate the total number of male children under the age of 2 to be no more than around 20 to 40. This lower number, of course, doesn't make the crime any less of an atrocity. The death of even one child is a tragedy. The massacre of the innocents, as it's often known, is not mentioned in secular histories of that era. The killing of 40 Hebrew children in an insignificant village did not catch the attention of secular historians. Also, Herod's acts of tyranny and cruelty were numerous, including the execution of some of his wives and his own children. The massacre, involving a relatively small number of Jewish children, was just another ruthless act in a long list of ruthless acts by this particular ruler. Did God let those parents and children down? The massacre was Herod's attempt to thwart God's plan and stop a biblical prophecy from being fulfilled. Of course, he failed, and during his failure, he added to the misery and sin of the world. The kings of the earth take their stand, and the rulers gather together against the Lord and against his anointed one, says Psalm 2 and verse 2. Speaking of the kings of those days, but it's relevant to today, of course. Their fight is futile. Christ will be victorious. Therefore, you kings be wise, be warned, you rulers of the earth. Kiss his son, or he will be angry and your way will lead to your destruction. Verses 10 and 12 of Psalm 2. What a responsibility kings and queens, presidents and politicians, rulers and leaders of all kinds have. Herod chose to kill innocent children to keep power that he thought he was at risk of losing. When any choose the path of war, they condemn many innocent children and people to death, even today. Herod had a choice. So do they, and so do we. The ability to choose is a gift, but how will you use your gift of choice?